They called her empty. 30 years old, no ring, no husband, no future. That's what Alistair Crowe announced to 200 of Chicago's elite, his voice echoing through the marble ballroom like a death sentence. 4 days later, Serafina Ashford would stand over his broken body, a crown of black diamonds on her head, her eyes glowing crimson in the dark. 4 days later, she would remember everything. 500 years of waiting.
Our
500
child will
years of a
inherit a
soul
beautiful
split in
world.
two, reaching
A
across
world
time
shaped
to
by
find
our
the man
love.
who loved her enough to let her die. But first, she had to survive the humiliation. First, she had to meet the monster. This is that story. The restoration studio smelled like turpentine and time. Serafina worked alone in the basement of the Chicago Museum of Art, 3 floors below, where tourists shuffled past Monets and Picassos, their footsteps a distant thunder overhead. Down here, the silence was thick. Down here, she could breathe. Her hands were steady as she cleaned centuries of grime from the portrait. A woman in a crimson gown, pale skin, dark hair, eyes that seemed to follow the brush. The painting dated to 1523, a Gothic masterpiece attributed to an unknown Italian artist. No signature, no record. Just this woman frozen in oil and canvas, her expression caught between sorrow and defiance. Serafina leaned closer. The late afternoon light slanted through the high basement window, catching something strange in the lower right corner. Text, hidden beneath layers of overpainting and varnish. She held her breath, applied the solvent with surgical precision, waited. Latin, faded gold leaf against black. Isidora mea eterna dilecta. Isidora, my eternal beloved. A chill ran down her spine. She didn't know why. The painting had hung in a Venetian monastery for 400 years before the museum acquired it last month. Just another anonymous portrait of a long-dead noblewoman. Except now, with those words revealed, the woman's eyes seemed sadder, knowing. Serafina's phone buzzed. She jumped, nearly dropping the brush. The envelope on her screen was cream-colored. Heavy stock, expensive. She knew what it was before she opened it. Alistair Crowe and Octavia Sterling request the honor of your presence at their engagement celebration. Her stomach turned to ice. Below the formal invitation, a handwritten note in Alistair's sharp, angular script. Come, Sarah. Show us there are no hard feelings, unless you're too embarrassed to show up alone. Her hand shook. 5 years. 5 years of her life poured into a man who texted her their breakup 3 months ago. No explanation, no conversation, just 14 words that shattered her world. This isn't working. You lack ambition. I need someone who matches my trajectory. Now he was marrying Octavia Sterling, old money, political connections, the kind of woman who had never worked a day in her life, but somehow deserved everything. Serafina looked at the painting. Isidora stared back, that eternal beloved trapped forever in a moment of beautiful suffering. She should throw the invitation away. She should have dignity, pride. But pride was a luxury she couldn't afford anymore. She typed her RSVP with trembling fingers. Yes, she would attend. Yes, she would smile. Yes, she would prove she didn't care. The first lie of the night. The Sterling estate sprawled across Lake Forest like a monument to excess. Serafina's rideshare pulled up to iron gates topped with gold finials, and for a moment she considered telling the driver to turn around. Run. Pretend the invitation never existed. But the gates swung open. The mansion beyond looked like something from a Gothic novel. All dark stone and towering turrets, windows blazing with golden light, luxury cars lined up like soldiers along the circular drive. Serafina wore a simple emerald dress bought on clearance. It was the nicest thing she owned. Next to the silken diamonds stepping out of Bentleys and Maybachs, she looked like a serving girl who'd wandered into the wrong party. She almost laughed. Maybe that's exactly what she was. The ballroom stole her breath. Crystal chandeliers the size of compact cars hung from a ceiling painted with cherubs and clouds. A string quartet played something classical and perfect. Champagne flowed. Diamonds glittered. Everyone beautiful. Everyone powerful. Everyone belonging. Serafina grabbed a glass from a passing waiter and pressed herself against a marble column, trying to disappear. She lasted 17 minutes before Alistair found her. He looked the same. Tall, handsome in that sharp, calculated way that photographed well. Bespoke tuxedo that probably cost more than her monthly rent. But it was his eyes that made her skin crawl. That same cold glint she'd ignored for years, mistaking cruelty for confidence. Octavia hung on his arm like a porcelain ornament. Blonde, delicate, dripping in diamonds that caught the light with every breath. Well, Alistair said, his voice carrying across the nearby conversations. Look who actually showed up. Heads turned. The music didn't stop, but the chatter died. This was entertainment. Serafina lifted her chin. Alistair, Octavia, congratulations. Octavia's smile was surgery perfect. Thank you, sweetie. Is that vintage? Her eyes raked over Serafina's dress. It's so brave of you to wear something so worn. It's classic, Serafina said. Her grip on the champagne glass turned white-knuckled. Alistair laughed, that same barking sound she'd heard 1,000 times. Sarah always did like old broken things. That's why she works at the museum. Lives in the past instead of facing reality. He stepped closer. The crowd pressed in a circle of vultures. But really, Sarah, why are you here alone again? Her face burned. She wanted to run, wanted to scream, wanted to throw the champagne in his perfect, smug face. I came to wish you well, she managed. Right. Alistair grabbed her left hand, held it up like evidence. Look, everyone. 30 years old and still empty. No ring, no prospects, no future. The chandeliers blurred. Her vision swam. I did you a favor, Sarah. His voice pitched louder. Performance now. Execution. I set you free. You should be thanking me. Maybe now you can find someone in your own league. A janitor, a librarian, someone as unremarkable as you. Laughter rippled through the crowd, not polite chuckles, real genuine amusement at her expense. Octavia giggled behind her hand. Alistair, stop. You're terrible. The point is, he leaned in close enough that she smelled scotch on his breath. You're nothing without me. You were a placeholder until I found a real woman. And now you're just a spectator in my world. He dropped her hand like it was contaminated. Go home, Sarah. You're ruining the aesthetic. The tears came hot and fast. She hated them. Hated her weakness. Hated that after everything, he could still make her feel small. She turned. Didn't run. Refused to run. But she walked fast, the sound of laughter chasing her through the ballroom down the grand staircase out into the November night. It had started to rain. Of course it had. Serafina didn't have a car, couldn't afford the surge pricing on a Friday night. The estate's driveway stretched a quarter-mile to the main road lined with oak trees that dripped cold water down her neck. Her dress was soaked within minutes. Her carefully styled hair collapsed. Mascara ran in black rivers down her cheeks, mixing with rain and tears until she couldn't tell which was which. She made it to the iron gates before her legs gave out. A stone bench sat just inside the property line, probably decorative, never meant to be used. She collapsed onto it, buried her face in her hands, and finally let herself break. I hate him. The words came out strangled, broken. I wish I could burn his entire world down. Careful, a voice spoke from the darkness. Deep, smooth as aged whiskey. Wishes spoken in the dark have a nasty habit of coming true. Serafina's head snapped up. A man stood under an ancient oak tree, leaning against a car that seemed to absorb the night. A Maybach. Black paint so dark it looked like liquid shadow. The car alone probably cost $500,000. But it was the man who made her breath catch. Tall, impossibly tall. 6'4" at least, with shoulders that suggested violence held carefully in check. A black suit that fit like a second skin, tailored with precision that made Alistair's tuxedo look off the rack. His skin was pale, not sickly pale, marble pale. The kind of pale that suggested he'd never seen sunlight, or perhaps had transcended the need for it. Dark hair, sharp features, and eyes. God, his eyes. Even from 20 feet away, even in the dark, they seemed to swallow light. Black holes where warmth should be. Who are you? Serafina's voice shook. From cold, from fear, from something else she couldn't name. The stranger stepped forward. He didn't walk, he glided, each movement precise. Economical. The way apex predators move when they know nothing can touch them. He stopped 5 feet away, close enough that she saw details. The perfect Windsor knot of his tie. The glint of platinum cufflinks, a pocket square folded with geometric precision. Then he did something unexpected. He took off his suit jacket, heavy cashmere, probably Brioni, definitely worth more than her yearly salary. He draped it over her trembling shoulders. The scent hit her immediately. Cedarwood, rain, something metallic underneath, like old pennies, like iron, like blood. I am someone who detests bullies, he said softly. He pulled a white handkerchief from his pocket. Linen, monogrammed. He handed it to her. And I am someone who is currently in need of a wife. Serafina stared at him. Excuse me. His smile was wrong. Beautiful, yes. Perfect white teeth, but sharp. Predatory. the smile of something that knew it sat at the top of the food chain. My name is Damien Blackwell. He extended a hand, and I witnessed what that little boy did to you inside. It was distasteful. She knew the name. Everyone in Chicago knew the name. Damien Blackwell, reclusive tech mogul who'd moved to the city 18 months ago. Rumors said he never went out during the day. Rumors said he destroyed competitors overnight, their companies gutted and absorbed before they even knew they were under attack. Rumors said he owned half of downtown and was buying the other half. You saw that. Shame flooded her, hot and thick. I see everything. He crouched down eye level now. His eyes flickered. A trick of the light. Had to be. Because for just a second they looked red. Deep crimson. You want revenge, Serafina Ashford. I can see it burning in your chest. You want to walk back in there and make him regret the day he was born. I can't. She wiped her eyes with his handkerchief. It came away black with mascara. I'm nobody. You are nobody because you choose to be. His voice dropped lower. Hypnotic. I have a proposition. I need a spouse by midnight tonight. A contract marriage. 1 year. In exchange, I give you the world. Money, power, and the ability to crush Alistair Crow into dust. Her heart hammered against her ribs. This was insane. Fairy tales didn't happen. Not to museum restorers who got dumped via text. Why me? Why not one of the women inside? Damien's expression darkened. Because they desire my money. You desire vengeance. Vengeance is a much stronger binder than greed. He stood, offered his hand again. So Serafina, do you want to go home and cry? Or do you want to become Mrs. Blackwell and introduce your husband to your ex? She looked at the mansion glowing in the distance, heard the faint sound of music and laughter, thought of Alistair's smug face. No ring. Empty. Nobody. She looked at Damien's pale hand. It looked dangerous. It looked like a trap. She took it. Let's go. He grinned, and for just a second she swore she saw his canines. Too long, too sharp. Excellent choice, my love. The inside of Damien's Maybach was quieter than a tomb. The windows were tinted so dark the outside world ceased to exist. No streetlights, no headlights, just thick pressing silence. Serafina sat on the leather, so soft it felt liquid. The car was warm despite the rain, but she couldn't stop shivering. Shock. Adrenaline. The surreal understanding that she'd just agreed to marry a stranger. Here, Damien produced a document from a hidden compartment. Heavy paper. Legal language dense enough to choke on. Standard agreement, fidelity during the arrangement, public appearances as needed, and absolute secrecy regarding my private medical condition. She frowned, scanning the pages under the dim reading light. Medical condition. He poured himself a drink from a crystal decanter. The liquid was dark red, thick, wrong. I have a rare blood disorder, he said smoothly. I cannot be in direct sunlight. I require a specialized diet. You will not ask questions about my schedule or my habits. Agreed. Serafina watched him sip the red liquid. Wine had to be wine. Is that, signed Serafina? His voice carried weight now. Command. We are 5 minutes from the courthouse. I have a judge waiting. Every second we waste is a second you remain nobody. Her hand moved before her brain caught up. The pen scratched across paper. Her signature. Legal. Binding. The moment ink touched paper, she felt something. A static shock that zapped from her fingertips straight to her chest, like touching a live wire. Good. Damien reached into his pocket, produced a ring box. Black velvet. Old. The kind of box that held history. He snapped it open. Serafina gasped. The ring inside was monstrous. A black diamond the size of a quail's egg, faceted to catch light it shouldn't catch. Surrounded by rubies that looked like drops of fresh blood. The band was white gold or platinum carved with symbols she didn't recognize. Old symbols. Occult. It was gothic. Ancient. Wrong. It was the most beautiful thing she'd ever seen. This has been in my family for centuries, Damien said. He took her left hand, the one Alistair had mocked, the one that had been empty for 30 years. He slid the ring on. It fit perfectly. Too perfectly. Like it had been made for her finger and no other. Now no one will ever say your hand is empty again. The car stopped. Where are we? Cook County Courthouse. Side entrance. The judge is a friend. Damien's smile was cold. 5 minutes. That's all it takes to change your destiny. The ceremony happened in a blur. A small room. No windows. Fluorescent lights that buzzed like dying insects. The judge was a nervous man named Henderson, who kept glancing at Damien like he expected to be devoured. He rushed through the vows. His hands shook when he opened the book. "Do you, Damien Blackwell, take this woman?" "I do." The words vibrated in Damien's chest. Final. Absolute. "And do you, Seraphina Ashford?" "I do." Her voice sounded small, far away. "Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. You may kiss the bride." Damien pulled her close. His hands were strong. His body was cold. Not cool, cold, like he'd been standing in a freezer. His lips touched hers. Ice. Absolute zero. The kiss of something that had never known warmth. But underneath, heat, burning. A fire that had nothing to do with temperature and everything to do with possession. When he pulled back, Seraphina's lips were numb. "Mrs. Blackwell," he murmured, "how does it feel?" She couldn't answer. Her heart was racing too fast. Her mind screaming that she'd made a mistake. A terrible, irreversible mistake. But the ring on her finger was real. Heavy. Solid. And when they walked back to the car, she was no longer Seraphina Ashford Museum. Nobody. She was Seraphina Blackwell. And the night was just beginning. Back in the Maybach, Damien checked a vintage pocket watch. Gold. Engraved with the same symbols as her ring. "The gala doesn't end for another 2 hours," he said. "We have time to make an entrance. But first you need to change." Seraphina looked down at her soaked dress. Ruined. "I look like a drowned rat." "Easily fixed." He pressed a button on the intercom. "Thaddeus?" "Yes, master." The voice from the driver's seat was cultured. British. Old. "Detour to the penthouse. Mrs. Blackwell needs to transform." The penthouse occupied the entire top floor of Blackwell Tower. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Chicago's glittering skyline. But the lights inside were dim, almost dark, like Damien preferred shadows to illumination. A team of stylists was already waiting, 3 women in black. They didn't speak to Seraphina, didn't ask her opinion, just worked with silent efficiency. They stripped her out of the wet dress, put her in midnight blue velvet that hugged every curve like it had been sewn directly onto her skin. Backless, dramatic. The kind of dress that cost 5 figures and demanded attention. They dried her hair, styled it in waves that cascaded down her bare back, applied makeup that made her eyes look huge and her skin luminous. When they finished, Seraphina didn't recognize herself in the mirror. She looked dangerous. She looked like a queen. "Perfect," Damien's voice came from the doorway. He'd changed too. A fresh tuxedo somehow sharper than the first. A midnight blue tie that matched her dress exactly. He walked up behind her. Their eyes met in the mirror. His hands settled on her bare shoulders, heavy and possessive and cold. "Are you ready to hunt?" he whispered. "To hunt. For their respect, for their fear." His lips brushed her ear. "Alistair Crow is a small man with a small mind. Tonight we break him." They took the Maybach back to the Sterling estate. The rain had stopped. The night air was crisp, clean. When the car pulled up to the valet, conversations stopped mid-sentence. The Blackwell crest was on the car's flag. Everyone knew what that meant. Damien stepped out first. The energy shifted. A ripple of tension spread through the valets, the guests smoking outside the security guards. Power. That's what he radiated, not wealth. Power. The kind that made people step back without realizing they were moving. He walked around the car, opened Seraphina's door himself. She took a deep breath, touched the black diamond on her finger. "I am Mrs. Damien Blackwell." She stepped out. The valet dropped his keys. Actually dropped them, staring. Damien offered his arm. "Chin up, my love. Smile. It confuses the prey." They walked up the grand staircase. The doors to the ballroom were still open. Music and laughter spilled out. The party was in full swing. Alistair was in the center of the room holding court, laughing at his own jokes. Octavia clinging to him like a barnacle. He was saying something loud, performative. She actually thought she could just stand there. It was pathetic, really. Some people just don't know when to... The room went silent. Ripples of silence spread from the door inward until the entire ballroom was dead quiet. The quartet's violins trailed off. Champagne glasses froze halfway to lips. Alistair frowned, turned around to see what everyone was staring at. His jaw dropped. Standing in the archway was Seraphina. But not the Seraphina he knew. This woman was glowing, draped in velvet and diamonds that caught the light with blinding intensity. And on her arm was Damien Blackwell, the most powerful, feared man in the city. Damien scanned the room, his lip curled slightly. Disdain, like he was observing insects. He walked Serafina into the center of the ballroom. The crowd parted. The Red Sea. Moses. Biblical. They stopped directly in front of Alistair and Octavia. Alistair blinked. His face lost all color. Sarah. Hello again, Alistair. Her voice was steady, strong. She felt Damien's presence beside her, bolstering her like a wall of stone. What are you doing here? He looked from her to Damien with wide, fearful eyes. And who? I believe you haven't met my husband. The word tasted like honey on her tongue, sweet, intoxicating. She raised her left hand. The black diamond caught the chandelier light and practically blinded Octavia. Husband, Octavia's shriek could have shattered glass. Damien stepped forward, towered over Alistair by a good 6 inches. The temperature in the room seemed to drop 10 degrees. Mr. Crow, his voice was a low rumble that everyone felt in their chest. I understand you had some commentary regarding my wife's marital status earlier this evening. Alistair swallowed hard. I didn't know, Mr. Blackwell, you didn't realize that Serafina is the most important person in this city because she belongs to me. Damien tilted his head. Predator, prey. Now you know, and Mr. Crow, if you ever speak to her with anything less than absolute reverence again. He leaned in, close enough to whisper, close enough that only Alistair could see his eyes flash red, glowing, inhuman. I will buy your father's company, dismantle it, and turn this estate into a parking lot. Do you understand? Alistair trembled, visibly trembled. Damien straightened, turned to the crowd, raised his voice. Now, who wants to propose a toast to the newlyweds? The room erupted. Applause, nervous, frantic. People rushed forward to congratulate Serafina, ignoring Alistair completely. He shrank back into the crowd, face white, hands shaking. Octavia looked like she might faint. Serafina looked up at Damien. He was smiling down at her, but then she saw it. A waiter walked by with a tray. Steak tartare. Raw. Bloody. Damien's nostrils flared, his pupils dilated until his eyes were entirely black. He looked at the meat with hunger that wasn't human. Feral. Desperate. He looked back at Serafina. For a split second, the mask slipped. This wasn't just a medical condition. The man she just married wasn't entirely a man. Are you happy, my love? His voice was velvet over steel. Serafina looked at Alistair cowering in the corner. She looked at the ring on her finger. She looked at the crowd now treating her like royalty instead of trash. Yes, she said, I am. Wow. But as the music started again and Damien led her onto the dance floor, Serafina realized the terrifying truth. She'd traded a bully for a monster, and the night was just beginning. The silence in the Maybach on the way to Damien's home was thick enough to choke on. The adrenaline was fading. Reality was settling in. Serafina was married to a stranger who currently sat as far away from her as the car allowed, eyes closed, jaw clenched, so tight she could see the muscle jumping. Damien, she whispered in. Don't. The word came out strained, like a violin string about to snap. Just give me a moment. His hands gripped his knees, knuckles white. The air in the car felt freezing, despite the climate control. When the car finally pulled up to his residence, Serafina's breath caught. She'd expected a penthouse, a modern mansion maybe, not a fortress. Blackwell Manor sat on the edge of the city overlooking Lake Michigan, isolated by high stone walls topped with iron spikes. A Gothic revival masterpiece of dark stone and towering turrets. Windows like unblinking eyes, the kind of house that held secrets and had no intention of giving them up. Beautiful. Terrifying. Welcome home, Mrs. Blackwell. Thaddeus's voice was gentle as he opened her door. He was older than she'd expected. Silver hair, military posture, kind eyes, home. The word felt foreign. Damien exited the car abruptly, moved with that same unnatural speed. He marched toward the massive oak front doors, leaving Serafina to scramble after him. Inside was a cavern of black marble and velvet. A grand staircase swept upward into shadows. The ceiling was lost in darkness, and the walls no mirrors, not a single one. Thaddeus will show you to your wing. Damien's back was to her. He was loosening his tie with frantic movements. I must retire immediately. Damien, wait. Serafina reached for his arm. Don't touch me, he roared. Spun around. She stumbled back, nearly fell. Damien froze. His face was a mask of anguish. His eyes were entirely black. No whites, no iris, just void. And his skin. Veins pulsed beneath the pale surface, dark, jagged, like his body was fighting something inside. He looked less like a billionaire and more like a starving animal. He struggled for control, took a deep shuddering breath, turned his face away. I am unwell, Serafina. My condition requires immediate treatment. Please, go with Thaddeus. He didn't wait for a response. He moved. A blur, inhuman speed, down a dark corridor that led to the basement levels. Gone. Serafina stood alone in the foyer, heart hammering. What just happened? Thaddeus stepped forward, expression unreadable. The master has episodes. It is best to let him manage them alone. Come this way, madam. Her room was in the east wing. The bed was a four-poster canopy draped in silk. A fire crackled in the hearth. Luxury, romance, loneliness. Dinner will be brought up, Thaddeus said. He paused at the door. I must advise you, madam, do not leave your wing tonight. The west wing and the lower levels are strictly off-limits after sundown. Why, because this is a large house and it is easy to get lost in the dark. The door closed. The lock clicked. Too loud. Serafina didn't sleep. Couldn't. She paced the room in her midnight blue gown, looked out the window at moonlit grounds. There were wolves patrolling the perimeter, huge gray beasts moving in silent coordination. Not dogs, wolves. By 3 in the morning, hunger and curiosity became unbearable. She tried the door. It wasn't actually locked despite the sound. The hallway was dark. Moonlight filtered through high windows. The house creaked, breathed, living silence. Do not leave your wing. She ignored the warning. She needed water, needed to understand where she was. She crept down the hallway, bare feet silent on carpet. She meant to find the kitchen, but a sound stopped her. Low, rhythmic, thrumming. Coming from the ground floor near the corridor Damien had disappeared down. Against every instinct, she followed it. Down the stairs, past the foyer, toward the heavy iron door at the end of the hall. It was slightly ajar. The air got colder as she approached. The smell of iron and copper became overwhelming. She peered through the crack. It was a wine cellar. But instead of wine racks, the walls were lined with industrial-grade medical refrigerators. Glass doors. Inside, rows and rows of clear plastic bags filled with dark red liquid, illuminated by clinical blue light. Blood bags. Hundreds of them. In the center of the room sat Damien, shirtless. His back was to her, revealing a tapestry of scars. Old scars, jagged, like sword wounds or claw marks crisscrossing pale skin. He held one of the blood bags. He bit into it, tore the plastic with savage efficiency, drained the contents in seconds. Serafina gasped, soft, barely a breath. Damien stiffened instantly. He dropped the empty bag, turned slowly. His chest was bare, heaving. A trail of red ran down his chin. His eyes glowed crimson in the darkness. I told you, his voice vibrated with dangerous power, to stay in your room. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Her brain tried to process blood bags, fangs, the speed, the cold, the eyes. You're not sick, she breathed. He stood, wiped his mouth with the back of his hand, looked at her with a mixture of hunger and sorrow. I am not a vampire, Serafina. He stepped toward her. Shadows clung to him, moved with him. I am the king, the primordial, the one the others fear. He stopped inches away. The smell of blood was terrifying, intoxicating. And you, oh, he reached out, tucked a strand of hair behind her ear. His cold fingers grazed her flushed skin. You are the only thing keeping me from burning this city to the ground. You are my anchor. His lips brushed against the pulse point of her neck. She shivered violently. But anchors sometimes drown. Serafina's mind was screaming, run, escape. This is wrong. But her body was frozen, trapped between terror and something else, something she didn't want to name. Why did you marry me? Her voice broke. If you're a monster, why drag me into this? Damien pulled back. His eyes returned to human brown. The red faded like embers cooling. Because even monsters get lonely, Serafina. And your ex was right about one thing. You were broken. He smiled, sad, ancient, and I am an expert at fixing broken things. He stepped back, gave her space. Go to bed. Tomorrow the world will try to tear us apart. You need your rest. Serafina ran, back through the corridor, up the stairs, into her room. She locked the door and buried herself under the covers. But as she closed her eyes, she realized the most terrifying part. When he was close. When he smelled like death and danger. She hadn't wanted to run, she'd wanted to stay. Morning came with cruel brightness. Serafina woke to sunlight streaming through UV protective glass, everything tinted sepia, like an old photograph. For 3 beautiful seconds, she forgot. Then reality crashed down. The ring on her finger, the monster in the basement, the marriage that wasn't a marriage but a contract signed in blood. She was Mrs. Damien Blackwell, and Damien Blackwell was a vampire king. A tray sat on her bedside table. Fresh coffee, croissants, fruit arranged like art, a single red rose. And a note: I apologize for the fright. The transition after feeding is difficult. I have business to attend to. Thaddeus will drive you to the museum. Keep the ring on. Always. D. Her fingers touched her neck where his lips had almost kissed. Almost bitten. The skin was unmarked, but she swore she could still feel the cold. She got dressed in her own clothes. Jeans, a blouse. Trying to reclaim normalcy. But when she walked downstairs, the house felt different. The shadows seemed to bow as she passed. Staff she hadn't seen the night before stopped and lowered their heads. Maids in black uniforms. Footmen who moved too quietly. All of them watching her with something that looked like reverence. Or fear. Thaddeus waited by the car. A different car this time. A Mercedes sedan. Still luxury but less conspicuous than the Maybach. Good morning, madam. You look rested. I know what he is, Thaddeus. The old man didn't blink. He opened the car door. Then you know why he needs you, and you know why you must never take that ring off. It masks your scent from the others. Seraphina's blood turned to ice. Others. Thaddeus started the engine. His eyes met hers in the rearview mirror. Mr. Blackwell is the king, madam, but every king has usurpers waiting for a moment of weakness. You are his heart, and the heart is the easiest place to strike. The museum felt like returning to a different life, a life from before, when she was nobody, when the biggest worry was removing varnish without damaging paint. But paparazzi swarmed the entrance like locusts. Mrs. Blackwell, is it true you married the shadow billionaire overnight? What about Alistair Crow? How much is that ring worth? Mrs. Blackwell, flashes blinded her. Security guards pushed the crowd back so she could enter. Inside, her boss, Mr. Henderson, looked at her like she'd grown a second head. Seraphina, I mean Mrs. Blackwell, we didn't know. If we'd known, it's still Seraphina. Exhaustion made her voice flat. Nothing's changed. Everything had changed. She fled to her restoration studio in the basement. The smell of turpentine, the quiet, the painting of Isadora still on her easel, those sad eyes staring. Isadora, my eternal beloved. Seraphina worked for hours, losing herself in brushstrokes and chemical solutions, trying not to think about blood bags and glowing eyes, and the fact that she'd married a creature that shouldn't exist. Around noon, the door to her studio banged open. Not Damien, Alistair. He looked manic, hair disheveled, eyes bloodshot. He smelled like day-old scotch and desperation. His expensive clothes were wrinkled like he'd slept in them. You! The word came out like venom. Seraphina's hand found a palette knife. Small, sharp. Alistair, you can't be here. I know what you did. He paced the room, hands shaking. I looked him up. Damien Blackwell. He doesn't exist before 5 years ago. No birth certificate, no college records, nothing. Just money that appeared out of nowhere. He's a private man. He's a fraud. Alistair's voice cracked. And you're a gold digger. You played the victim and then ran off with a ghost. He lunged, fast, faster than she expected. Take it off! His hands grabbed for her wrist. The ring. Take off the ring. I won't let you humiliate me like this. Alistair stopped. He was stronger. His fingers dug into her arm, bruising, trying to pry the ring from her finger. You belong to me. You've always belonged to me. You think some freak in a suit changes that? He raised his hand, open palm, aimed at her face. Seraphina flinched, closed her eyes. The impact never came. Instead, a sound like a whip cracking, then a sickening crunch. She opened her eyes. Alistair was pinned against the far wall, his feet dangling 6 inches off the ground. Damien was there, suit jacket gone, sleeves rolled up, one hand wrapped around Alistair's throat, holding him against concrete with effortless ease. Damien's back was to Seraphina, but the aura radiating off him was pure rage. The air in the room dropped to freezing. Canvas paintings rattled on their easels. I warned you. His voice wasn't a growl. It was calm, flat, infinitely more terrifying. I told you that if you touched her, I would destroy you. Let go, Alistair gagged. His face turned purple. He clawed at Damien's arm, but it was like clawing at stone. Damien, don't kill him, Seraphina screamed. Damien paused, turned his head slightly toward her. His eyes were black again. Void. He tried to hurt you. If you kill him, you go to jail. She rushed forward, put her hand on his rigid bicep, cold as marble. Please, he's not worth it. Damien looked at Alistair. Disgust curled his lip. You are lucky she has mercy. I have none. He threw Alistair. Didn't drop him. Threw him across the room like a rag doll. Alistair smashed into a pile of empty frames. Wood splintered, glass shattered. He curled into a fetal position, gasping for air. Damien straightened his cuffs, looked at Serafina, scanned her for injuries. Did he touch you anywhere else? No, though. She was trembling. How did you get here? I didn't call you. I felt your fear. He touched the ring on her finger. The ring calls to me. He walked over to Alistair, who was wheezing on the floor. Damien crouched down, close enough to whisper, but loud enough for Serafina to hear. Listen closely, little man. If you ever come near my wife again, I won't break your bones. I will drain you dry and leave your husk for the rats. Do you understand? Alistair nodded frantically. Terror in his eyes. He'd seen the speed, felt the strength. He knew. This wasn't a man. Get out. Alistair scrambled up, limped, ran, didn't look back. Serafina's legs gave out. Damien caught her instantly, pulled her into his chest. I'm sorry. His voice was soft now, almost human. I should have had him dealt with permanently last night. Damien. She pulled back, looked at him. You just moved across the room in a second. You threw him 20 feet. Yes. And the ring, it connects us. Yes, so everything you said last night about being the king. Damien sighed. He took her hand, led her to a chair, sat her down, knelt in front of her so they were eye level. Serafina, my world is at war. There are factions, ancient vampire clans who want my territory. They want Chicago. For centuries I have held them back, alone. But a king without a queen is viewed as vulnerable, unstable. He looked into her eyes. I needed a wife to solidify my claim, to show them I am establishing a dynasty. But by marrying you, I have painted a target on your back. Alistair is the least of your worries now. Ice flooded her veins. Who are my worries? The Council of Thorns. They are the old guard. They despise humans, and they will not be happy that the Vampire King has married a mortal art restorer. The lights in the studio flickered, died. Emergency red lights bathed the room in bloody glow. Damien stood abruptly, positioned himself in front of Serafina. He sniffed the air. Is it Alistair? She whispered. No. Damien growled. His fangs descended, sharp, glistening in the red light. Alistair smells like cheap cologne and fear. This smells like sulfur and rot. The door creaked open. A woman stood in the doorway, stunningly beautiful, silver hair that seemed to move like liquid, eyes like shattered glass. She wore a business suit, but her nails were long. Dark talons? She smiled. Hello, brother. You didn't invite your sister to the wedding. I'm hurt. Damien's growl deepened, vibrated through the floor. Serafina, run. Serafina was frozen. The woman stepped into the room. The emergency lights painted her silver hair red. She didn't walk. She blurred, appeared instantly in the center of the room, blocking the only exit. Oh, don't be rude, Damien. I just want to meet the pet. Damien launched himself at her, a blur of violence. She caught his wrist midair. The impact sent a shockwave through the room, windows high above shattered. My name is Morgana, she said, looking past Damien's snarling face to lock eyes with Serafina. And you, Serafina Ashford, are an embarrassment to our bloodline. Let her go, Morgana. Damien's fangs were fully extended. She is under protection of the ring. Morgana laughed, crystal breaking. The ring you gave a human, the ring of dominion, you foolish boy. You think jewelry makes her a queen? It makes her a target. She twisted Damien's arm, threw him into a heavy steel table. The table buckled. Before he could recover, Morgana raised a hand towards Serafina. Invisible fingers wrapped around her throat, lifted her off the ground. Serafina gagged, clawed at nothing. Her feet kicked helplessly. Stop, Damien roared, scrambled to his feet. But Morgana held up one finger. He froze, pinned by invisible force. Invoking the paralysis of blood bond, Damien hissed. You are breaking the treaty. The treaty protects family. She is not family. She is food. Serafina's vision spotted, darkness creeping in. She thought of Alistair's mockery, leftover goods, empty. She thought of 30 years of being nobody. No, not like this. I survived Alistair. I am not dying in a basement. She stopped clawing at her throat, reached into her pocket. The palette knife. Small, insignificant against a monster. But she was an art restorer. She knew about weak points. Morgana was arrogant, looking at Damien, gloating. Serafina swung with the last of her strength, didn't aim for the neck, aimed for the hand controlling the magic. The sharp blade slashed across Morgana's palm. Morgana screeched, inhuman. The invisible grip vanished. Serafina dropped, hit the floor, gasped for air. You little wretch. Morgana stared at black blood oozing from her palm. You dare draw royal blood. Damien broke free. The moment Morgana's concentration faltered, the paralysis lifted. But he didn't attack. He grabbed Serafina, wrapped his arms around her, shielded her with his body. She fought back. Dark pride filled his voice. She drew blood. By the laws of the council, she has initiated the rite. Morgana's eyes narrowed. She licked the wound, skin knitted together instantly. The rite you want to put this fragile thing through the trials, she will break Damien. And when she does, I will eat her heart in front of you. What is the rite? Serafina whispered. Her throat hurt. A trial by fire, Damien said, not looking away from his sister. If you survive, the council must acknowledge you as my queen. If you fail, she dies. Morgana smiled, cruel. Tonight, midnight, the Council of Thorns convenes. Bring her to the undercroft. She looked at Serafina with contempt. And bring her ex-fiancé. Every trial needs a sacrifice. Did you think he came here by accident? I told him where to find you. The truth hit like a freight train. Alistair hadn't just attacked. He'd been used, manipulated. We will be there, Damien said. Morgana vanished. 1 second present, the next gone. Only the smell of ozone remained. Damien turned to Serafina. His face was grave. He cupped her face in cold hands. Listen to me. The rite is dangerous. It tests your mind, your loyalty, your will. But you have something they don't. What? Humanity. Vampires are arrogant. We underestimate what humans will do to survive. You hurt Morgana because she didn't think you were a threat. Keep doing that. And Alistair, Damien's expression turned to stone. Alistair dug his own grave. Tonight we let him lie in it. The day passed in a blur. Damien brought her back to Blackwell Manor. Made her eat even though she couldn't taste anything. Made her rest even though she couldn't sleep. Thaddeus came to her room at sunset. He carried a black box. For tonight, madam. Inside was the midnight blue dress from the gala. Cleaned, pressed, perfect. The master insists you look the part of a queen. At 11:30 they descended. The undercroft was located beneath the city's oldest cathedral. A place forgotten by maps and time. Damien led her down a spiral staircase that seemed to descend into the earth's core. The air was frigid. The stone walls were lined with skulls, hundreds of them, thousands. Serafina's breath came out in white clouds. They entered a massive circular chamber. In the center was a pit of black water, still, reflecting nothing. Around the perimeter sat 12 high-backed stone thrones. 11 were occupied by hooded figures. Their eyes glowed different colors in the darkness. Red, gold, silver. The 12th throne was empty, the largest, at the head of the circle. Damien's throne. Morgana stood by the water. She looked like a high priestess of doom. And kneeling beside her, bound and gagged, was Alistair. When Alistair saw Serafina, he made a muffled noise. His eyes were wide, terrified. He looked pathetic, stripped of his expensive suit, wearing only his undershirt, shivering in the cold. The king returns. Morgana's voice echoed. And he brings his pet. I bring my wife. Damien's voice boomed. He walked Serafina to the center near the water, squeezed her hand once, then ascended to his throne. He had to sit apart. He was the judge. She was the accused. Serafina Ashford, a raspy voice spoke from one of the hooded figures. You seek to sit beside the king. You seek to rule the night. But are you worthy? I am. Her voice shook, but she held her head high. Prove it. Morgana hissed. She snapped her fingers. The gag on Alistair's mouth vanished. Serafina, Alistair screamed. Serafina, help me. They're crazy. They're going to kill me. Tell them I'm important. Silence. Damien's command from the throne. Morgana stepped forward, handed Serafina a heavy silver dagger. Cold, covered in intricate runes. This man betrayed you, mocked you, shamed you, and today he contacted me. Offered to lead me to you in exchange for money. He sold your life for a wire transfer. Serafina, Alistair sobbed, I didn't know. I thought they were corporate rivals. Please, we were together for 5 years. You loved me. Kill him, Morgana whispered in Serafina's ear. Spill his blood into the black water. Show us you have the killer instinct of a queen. If you spare him, you are weak, and the weak are eaten. Serafina held the dagger. Heavy, the weight of a life. She looked at Damien. His face was impassive, but his eyes pleaded. Choose right. What was right? Kill Alistair and become a murderer. Become like them. Spare him and prove she was too weak to be queen. She looked at Alistair, remembered the gala, the humiliation, 5 years of him making her feel small. It would be so easy. Revenge. She had raised the dagger. Alistair screamed, squeezed his eyes shut. Serafina brought the dagger down, slammed it into the stone floor. The blade shattered into a dozen pieces. The sound echoed like a gunshot. Silence. I will not. Her voice rang clear. Not weakness, power. She turned to face the council. This man is nothing. He is a worm. Killing him implies he is a threat worth removing. He is not. He is beneath my anger, beneath my blade. To kill him is to give him value. She looked up at Damien. A queen does not slaughter cattle because they moo. She ignores them. Damien smiled, terrifying, proud. She speaks the logic of the ancients, one of the hooded figures murmured. Disdain is the truest form of power. Morgana's face twisted in rage. Tricks with words. If she won't kill him, then she must face the water. She shoved Serafina. Serafina tumbled backward, fell into the pit of black water. No, Damien roared, leaped from his throne. Too late. The water was freezing, thicker than oil. It rushed into her nose and mouth, but it didn't drown her. It invaded. In the darkness, visions assaulted her, herself old and alone. Damien dead a stake through his heart. Alistair laughing at her funeral. Give up. The water whispered. Just let go. You are nothing. Empty. Broken. The ring on her finger burned. Pain cleared her mind. I am not alone. I am chosen. She kicked, fought the heavy liquid, reached for the surface. The ring glowed underwater, a beacon, guiding her. She broke the surface, gasped, dragged herself onto the stone rim, shivering violently, skin turning blue. Morgana looked shocked. No human survives the pool of despair. Their minds shatter. Serafina stood, trembling but standing. The black water dripped from her dress. Where it touched the floor, it turned to steam. Is that it? Her teeth chattered. Is that all you have? Damien was suddenly beside her, took off his heavy cloak, wrapped it around her, turned to the council. She spared the traitor out of pride. She survived the water through will. She wears my ring. He looked at the hooded figures. One more test. Then she is my queen. The eldest vampire stood. His voice was ancient, like grinding stones. The blood bond. Let her drink from the king. Prove the bond is real. Damien pulled a knife from his belt. Without hesitation, he cut his own wrist. Deep. Blood welled dark and thick. He held it over a chalice. The blood filled it. Black-red. Wrong. He held it out to Serafina. This will change you. There is no going back. She took the chalice. Her hands shook. The blood inside looked like liquid night. I choose this. I choose you. She drank. The world exploded. Memories crashed into her mind like a tsunami. Not her memories, his. Venice, 1523. A woman in a crimson gown. Isadora, dancing in candlelight, laughing. Her face was Serafina's face. I will love you for eternity, she said. Then blood, screaming. Morgana's face twisted in jealousy. A dagger. Isadora falling. I choose this, Isadora whispered as she died. My blood freely given. So you can live forever. Damien holding her body, weeping blood, the ring on her finger, the same ring now on Serafina's hand. Find me again, Isadora's last words. Souls don't die, they wait. 500 years of searching. Damien walking through centuries, alone. Until one night in the rain he saw a woman crying outside a mansion and recognized her soul. Serafina, Isadora, the same. The chalice fell from her hands, shattered on stone. She collapsed. Damien caught her. Forgive me, I should have told you from the start. Her eyes opened. They glowed crimson. The blood bond complete. I remember. Her voice was hoarse. I remember dying. I remember loving you. I remember. Perfect. Morgana's voice cut through. Now she's bonded, she's easier to kill. Morgana pulled something from her coat, a grenade, but not normal. It glowed ultraviolet. She threw it at Damien. Serafina's body moved on instinct. She pushed Damien back, stepped in front of him. The grenade exploded. UV light flooded the chamber. Damien screamed. His skin began to crack, burn, like lava cooling. But Serafina stood in the light. The ring on her finger blazed. A barrier of crimson energy exploded from it, shielding both of them. The UV light couldn't penetrate. The council gasped. Impossible, Morgana breathed. The ring of dominion only activates for true consorts, for bonded souls. Damien looked at Serafina, then at Morgana. Understanding dawned. You killed her. His voice was death. 500 years ago, you killed Isadora. You made it look like the council. And I believed you. Morgana's face twisted. She was human, weak. You deserved better. The council was splitting. 6 figures stood, bowed to Serafina. We recognized the bond. 6 stayed seated, sided with Morgana. We have a civil war, the eldest vampire said quietly. But Serafina wasn't listening. She was staring at Damien's burned skin, the cracks healing slowly. She was staring at her own hands, still glowing with crimson light. What am I? Damien pulled her close. You are my queen. And tomorrow we end this war. The undercroft erupted into chaos, but through it all, Serafina held on to one truth. She wasn't broken. She was awakening. And the monster she'd married, he'd been waiting 500 years for her to come home. They escaped the undercroft through ancient tunnels that smelled like earth and death. Thaddeus waited with the car. Loyal vampires formed a protective circle, but Damien was dying. The UV burns covered half his body. His skin cracked like drought-stricken earth. Black blood seeped from the fissures. He couldn't stand without Serafina holding him upright. Get him to the manor, Thaddeus barked. Now! The ride back was a nightmare. Damien's breathing came in ragged gasps. His eyes kept flickering between brown and black. Losing control, losing himself. Stay with me. Serafina held his face. Her hands came away wet with his blood. Damien, stay with me. Can't. The burns. Too deep. Need. He couldn't finish the sentence. What do you need of blood, E? Massive transfusion, or I'll. His eyes rolled back. They carried him into the manor. Down to a medical room Serafina hadn't seen. All steel and glass. Bags of blood lined the walls, but Thaddeus shook his head. Not enough. The UV damaged him at a cellular level. He needs fresh blood, living blood, vampire blood. Then take mine. Serafina rolled up her sleeve. Madam, you're not fully turned. It will accelerate your transformation. You'll never be human again. She looked at Damien on the steel table, his body convulsing, the man who'd saved her from humiliation, who'd waited 500 years for her soul to find its way back to him. I stopped being human the moment I signed that contract. She held out her arm. I became something better. I became his equal. Thaddeus handed her a scalpel. You have to do it yourself. Free will. That's the magic. Serafina cut her palm, deep. Blood welled bright red. She held it over Damien's mouth. The first drop hit his tongue. His eyes snapped open, glowing crimson. Feral. He grabbed her wrist, pulled her hand to his mouth, drank. The sensation was like lightning in reverse. Instead of striking down, it pulled up. Every nerve ending ignited. Pain, pleasure. Impossible to separate. She gasped, nearly fell, but she didn't pull away. She watched as color returned to his skin, watched the cracks seal, watched him heal. When he finally released her hand, his eyes were human again. Warm, grateful. Serafina. Don't. She swayed, dizzy. Just don't die. That's all I ask. She looked at her reflection in the steel cabinets. Her eyes glowed crimson. Permanent now. The transformation complete. She wasn't human anymore. She was something else. Something more. Dawn broke with blood-red light. Serafina stood at the window of the war room. 6 vampires loyal to Damien sat around a massive table. 6 seats empty. Those who'd sided with Morgana. Civil war. Thaddeus spread maps across the table. Morgana has fortified the undercroft. She's declared herself regent. Claims Damien is unfit to rule because he married a human. I'm not human anymore. Serafina's voice was strange to her own ears. Colder, sharper. One of the vampires, a woman named Celeste, smiled. No, my queen, you are not. My queen, the words settled over her like a crown. Damien entered, healed, powerful. but his eyes found Serafina first. Always her first. The council is fractured. Morgana will move against us tonight. She'll try to complete a coronation, claim my throne by right of strength. Then we stop her. Serafina turned from the window. How do we fight? Damien crossed to her, took her wounded hand. The cut had already healed. Vampire healing. We don't fight with strength. We fight with truth. Morgana killed Isadora. She lied for 5 centuries. We expose her, break her support. And then, his expression darkened. Then I kill her. No. Serafina pulled her hand back. Then I do. The room went silent. She's my sister, and I'm your queen. This is my trial, my right. She dies by my hand or not at all. Damien stared at her, seeing her, really seeing her. Not the broken woman from the gala, not even the human he'd married, but this, the creature she was becoming. You're not Isadora, he said softly. No, I'm not her replacement. She touched his face. I'm her completion. You said it yourself. He kissed her palm. Then we do this together. The rest of the day was preparation. Thaddeus trained Serafina in her new abilities. Speed, strength, compulsion. The vampire gifts flowing through her hybrid blood. You're faster than full vampires, Thaddeus observed. The human adaptability combined with vampire power. Unpredictable, dangerous. She learned to move like smoke, to make her voice reverberate with command, to feel the blood bond connecting her to Damien like a golden thread. In the forge, Damien worked metal with his bare hands, heating it with his own body temperature. He melted down something small, precious. What is that? Serafina asked. Isadora's original wedding ring, the one I gave her in 1523. He poured the molten metal into a mold, added her blood, drops of crimson mixing with liquid gold. Now it becomes yours, a weapon, the only thing that can kill an original vampire. He shaped it into a dagger. Elegant, deadly, the blade glowed with dark light. She won't expect mercy, he said. She'll expect me to rage, to kill without thought. But you, he handed her the dagger. You'll give her something worse. Truth. Night fell like a curtain. They returned to the undercroft, but this time Serafina walked as a queen. Midnight blue velvet replaced with crimson silk, the dagger hidden in the folds, the ring blazing on her finger. Damien wore black armor, old armor, from centuries past. A king going to war. 6 loyal vampires flanked them. Thaddeus led the way. The circular chamber had changed. Morgana sat on Damien's throne. She wore a crown, Isadora's crown, twisted, corrupted, black thorns instead of gold. The 6 rebel council members stood behind her, and kneeling at her feet chained in silver was Alistair. But Alistair was wrong. His skin was pale. Too pale. His eyes had a reddish tinge. Fangs protruded from his mouth, jagged, imperfect. What did you do to him? Serafina's voice echoed. Morgana laughed. I turned him. Badly, a half-vampire, mad with bloodlust but controllable. The perfect pet. Alistair's head snapped towards Serafina. Recognition flickered. Then hunger. He lunged against the chains, snarling. Serafina, Serafina, mine, mine. Enough, Morgana's command, and Alistair fell silent. She looked at Damien. Brother, you've come to bow to your new queen. I've come to take back what's mine. You brought an army of 6, Morgana gestured to her own forces. I have 6 as well, and I have the throne. Possession is 9/10 of the law. Then let's make it a trial by combat. Serafina stepped forward. You and me, single combat, winner takes the crown. Morgana's eyes widened, then she laughed. You a week-old fledgling. I drew your blood once, I can do it again. The rebel council members shifted, uncertain. They'd seen Serafina survive the trials, seen the ring activate, seen her bond with Damien. Morgana's smile faded. Fine, when I kill you, Damien will be broken, easier to destroy. She stood, descended from the throne, the crown still on her silver hair. No weapons, no magic, just strength. Serafina handed the dagger to Damien. Trust me. The 2 women circled each other. Morgana was ancient, powerful. Her movements were liquid grace. Predator. She struck first, a blur of speed, claws aimed at Serafina's throat. But Serafina was faster. She dodged, rolled, came up behind Morgana. The vampire blood gave her speed. The human blood gave her unpredictability. They clashed. Again, again. The chamber rang with the sound of impact. Stone cracked under their feet. The air itself seemed to scream. But Serafina wasn't trying to win with strength. She was waiting for her moment. Morgana grabbed her, threw her into the black pool. Serafina surfaced instantly. The water didn't affect her anymore. She climbed out, smiled. "That all you have?" Morgana snarled. Rushed forward. Serafina didn't dodge. She stepped into the attack, wrapped her arms around Morgana, embraced her. What? The blood bond activated. Serafina's blood, Damien's blood, Isadora's blood, all flowing through her veins, all connected. She forced the connection onto Morgana, pushed the memories into her mind. Isadora's memories, the true memories. Venice, 1523. Isadora laughing with Damien, planning their future. Morgana in the shadows, watching, jealous. "I love you like a sister," Isadora said to Morgana. "I'm so glad my husband has family." But Morgana didn't want to be a sister. She wanted to be the bride, the night of the murder. Morgana's dagger, Isadora's shocked face. Why? Because he should have chosen me. Isadora falling, her last words, not cursing Morgana, forgiving her. "Tell him I love him. Tell him my blood is freely given so he can live forever. Tell him to find happiness." Morgana had told him nothing. Let him believe the council killed her. Let him hate. Let him isolate. 500 years of lies. Morgana screamed, the memories ravaging her mind. "No, no, stop. You did this." Serafina's voice was iron. "You killed her. You lied. You stole his happiness. You stole her sacrifice." Morgana collapsed to her knees. Tears of black blood streamed down her face. "I loved him. I loved him first. Love doesn't destroy." Serafina released her, stepped back. "Love doesn't steal. Love doesn't lie for centuries." She held out her hand. Damien placed the dagger in it. "You know what you did was wrong." Serafina stood over Morgana. "You've known for 500 years, and you've been running from the truth ever since." Morgana looked up, broken. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Sister, I'm not your sister." Serafina raised the dagger. "But Isadora would have forgiven you. She forgave you even as she died. So I'll give you the mercy she would have given." She plunged the dagger into Morgana's heart. Not in rage, in sorrow. Morgana gasped, looked down at the blade. The metal glowed, unmaking her from the inside out. "Thank you." Her voice was a whisper. "Tell him. Tell Damien I'm sorry. Tell him I loved." She crumbled to ash. Gray dust that scattered across the stone floor. The crown clattered, empty. Silence filled the undercroft. The 6 rebel council members knelt. One by one, bowed their heads. We recognize Serafina Blackwell, the Crimson Queen. The 6 loyal members knelt as well. Long live the Queen. The eldest vampire, Cassius, stepped forward. He held a different crown, ancient, beautiful, made of white gold and rubies. "By law of blood, trial, and sacrifice, we crown you Serafina Blackwell, Queen of the Midwest Dominion, consort of the King, guardian of the threshold." He placed the crown on her head. It was heavy, but she stood tall. Damien knelt before her. "My queen." She pulled him to his feet. "My king." They stood together, equals, partners, as it should have been 500 years ago. Serafina looked at Alistair, still chained, still snarling, broken. "What is your decree?" Cassius asked. For the traitor, she could kill him, should kill him, but she remembered Isadora's mercy, her forgiveness. "Remove his memory," she said. "All of it. Make him human again if possible. If not, make him forget he was ever anything else. Send him away. Let him live a small, forgotten life. That's punishment enough." Damien approached Alistair, grabbed his face, forced eye contact. His pupils dilated, swallowing his irises. Infinite voids. "You will forget this place. Forget Serafina. Forget your wealth. Forget your pride. You will work hard and never get ahead. You will feel the emptiness you tried to give her, every day, for the rest of your miserable life." The compulsion settled like a weight. Alistair's eyes glazed, empty. "Where am I? Who are you?" "Nobody." Damien released him. "Thaddeus, take him to the bus station. Give him $5. He has a long shift at the diner ahead of him." Thaddeus led Alistair away. The broken man shuffled like a zombie. No memory, no power, no future, just empty. The way he'd called Serafina. Justice. 4 months later, the Chicago Museum of Art reopened its restoration wing with a gala exhibition. Creatures of myth, separating fact from fiction. curated by Dr. Serafina Blackwell. The media frenzy had died down. The Blackwells were part of Chicago society now, accepted, feared, respected. Photos showed them at charity events, ribbon cuttings. Damien had become a philanthropist. Serafina, an advocate for the arts. But those who looked closely saw the truth, saw how people stepped aside when they walked past, saw the reverence in bowed heads, saw the power that radiated from the vampire king and his crimson queen. At the museum gala, Serafina moved through the crowd in a gown of deep red, the black diamond ring on her finger, a second ring now beside it, the royal band, rubies and white gold. She paused at a photograph in the exhibit, a portrait of a woman in crimson, Isadora, the painting she'd been restoring the night everything changed. The plaque read Artist Unknown, 1523, on loan from the Blackwell collection. Beautiful, isn't it? Serafina turned. A young woman stood beside her. Art student, probably. Eager eyes. It is, Serafina agreed. Do you think she was happy? The woman in the painting. Serafina looked at Isadora's face, her own face. Across 500 years. I think she loved deeply, and that love never died. It just waited for the right time to bloom again. The student smiled, moved on to the next exhibit. In the corner of the room, serving champagne on a tray, was a busboy. Tall, handsome once, now hollow. His name tag read Al. He didn't recognize Serafina as she walked past, didn't recognize the man on her arm, Damien in a perfect tuxedo, looking at her like she was the only thing in the universe. Al had no memory of humiliating anyone, no memory of wealth. He just knew he had a headache that never quite went away, and a feeling like he'd lost something important but couldn't remember what. He'd been working at the diner for months, lived in a studio apartment, barely made rent. Nobody remembered his name. He was empty, truly empty now. Serafina and Damien left the gala early, drove back to Blackwell Manor. The wolves greeted them at the gate, tamed now, loyal. Inside, Serafina went to the study. Her study now. The east wing was hers. She'd filled it with books, art supplies, canvases. She was painting a new portrait, Damien standing at the window of the manor. Sunlight filtering through UV glass, no longer trapped in shadow. You're glowing tonight, he said, wrapped his arms around her from behind. His hands settled on her stomach. I wanted to wait, to be sure. She put down the brush, turned in his arms. I'm pregnant, 4 months. His eyes widened. That's impossible. Human-vampire hybrids don't. We rewrote the rules. She took his hand, placed it on her belly. Feel. Under his palm, a flutter, and then a glow. Crimson light, pulsing, the heartbeat of something new. Something that had never existed before. A daughter, Serafina whispered. I saw her in a dream. She'll be strong. She'll be kind. She'll change everything. Damien dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead against her stomach. His shoulders shook, not with pain, with joy, relief, hope. 500 years of loneliness, ending in this moment. Thank you, he whispered, for coming back, for finding me. She ran her fingers through his dark hair. You waited. Not many would have waited that long. For you, I would have waited eternity. That night, Serafina stood on the manor balcony. The city lights of Chicago spread below like stars fallen to earth. Damien beside her, the crown resting in her study, the rings on her finger catching moonlight, the life growing inside her. Somewhere in the city, Alistair scrubbed grease from a plate, his hands wrinkled from dishwater, his mind blank. He looked out the diner window at the Blackwell Tower in the distance, its windows blazing with light. He felt nothing looking at it, recognized nothing, but somewhere deep in his erased mind a whisper. What did I lose he'd never know? And Serafina, standing on her balcony, feeling her daughter kick beneath her palm, wearing her crown in spirit, if not in body, holding her king's hand, thought of that moment in the rain 4 months ago, when she'd been nobody, when a monster had offered her a choice, run or rule. She'd chosen to rule. The wind carried memories across the water, to the museum where her work hung, to the diner where Alistair washed dishes and remembered nothing, to the Sterling estate now owned by the Blackwells, to every corner where her story was whispered. They called me empty, she said softly to the night, to the past, to every person who'd ever underestimated her. Damien's arms tightened around her. And now, she smiled, her crimson eyes reflecting the city she would protect, the future she would build, the empire she would rule. Now they see a queen. This wasn't an ending, it was a coronation, and Serafina Blackwell was just getting started.